Women are awesome. This is Horror and Coffee, and we're going to talk about the top 5 final girls in horror movies. Coming up. Welcome to Horror and Coffee. This is Ralph Perez, your host, without his hat. His hair's kind of messy right now. It's growing out. I got to get a haircut because everything's opening up again, so hopefully I'll be able to get myself nicely groomed again. But if you like what you see here, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about the content. Please consider subscribing. Click on that like button and tap on that bell button for future notifications. Okay, we're talking about the role of women in horror. Now, back in the day, right, like Dracula and Frankenstein and all that, the women were always like, oh, help me. And they would faint, and they would like throw themselves on the floor, and they would run to the man to protect her from the evil monster. Well, guess what? Things changed rather quickly in the 70s, particularly. It was in the 70s where there was a shift regarding the role of women in horror cinema. They were no longer so much the victim. I mean, yeah, they were the victims, but they didn't need like a guy, a hero, so to speak, to save them in their time of distress. We actually got ourselves quite a few women, starting in the 70s, all the way through the 80s, that made us go, wow, that's pretty cool. And I looked at quite a few of them in all the movies that I've seen, and I've come down with a top 5 that I like to share with you. And we're going to discuss this here on Horror and Coffee about how each one kind of exemplified the role of women in cinema and how it changed it. Number 5 is a character named Sally Hardesty from the classic 1974 film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That was the movie that freaked everybody out. Everybody was like, dag, that was some serious stuff. You see her, she survived it. She was the only survivor of that group of friends that she was with in the beginning of the movie in that van when they were on their little road trip, and then they happened to come across the wrong people at the wrong time. They came across good old Leatherface and his lovely, beautiful family. So wholesome. And what he did to their friends. Wow. Talk about an edifying experience. Not. Let me tell you, it traumatized her. You could see it traumatized her because my favorite part of that movie was her final escape from the house. First of all, she's running, right? And you see her running down the dirt road away from the house. You see Leatherface and his brother. I think that's his brother. I don't know, his cousin, whatever. And he's flailing about his arms, looking like an idiot, right? Because he's an idiot, basically. And then she keeps going. Leatherface keeps chasing her. She hails a truck that happens to stop to help her. The guy goes out of the truck. He sees Leatherface coming. He runs around the truck. It actually was a funny moment. But she eventually jumps on the back of a small pickup truck and drives away while Leatherface, in his anger, is just flailing about, waving his chainsaw in the air, wishing he would have been able to get to her. And there she is, sitting on the thing, laughing. She was laughing because she kind of went nuts. She went through a traumatic experience. It's going to take years of therapy, okay? Years of therapy. It's bad. Poor thing. Poor Sally, right? But she survived it, all right? It's not like, in the other movies that you see, in the earlier films, in the black and white, when they're like, oh, help me. Okay? Because if you think about the zeitgeist of the time, the 60s was already, so many changes were happening in the social structure of our world, of our country particularly. And that was the whole thing about the new role of women in our society regarding jobs, regarding their function at home as mothers, as wives. So what made us think? What made us think that that wasn't going to happen in the realm of cinema, in film? Especially in horror movies, where they were always displayed to be the victim. Sally was the first one even to survive. Well, she may not have been the first survivor, so to speak, in a horror movie, but she was definitely the first one that I thought of that exemplified how you have to like do whatever it takes to get away from the danger that is posed to you. Okay, number 4, Ellen Ripley, Alien, 1979's Alien. She was the final girl in that. It was a small crew, the crew of the Nostromo. They pick up this parasite clinging onto one of their passengers. Parasite comes off. Kane seems okay. They have dinner. And then they're not having dinner. They spend the rest of the movie trying to like find this thing so they could flush it out into space. Didn't work. This thing was methodical and smart. And definitely the first of its horror. I actually made a whole retro review on the Alien, on that film, that you could check out right here. You saw the horror in her face, the terror that seized her, right? And what was good about this film is that not only was she able to escape the Nostromo before it exploded, she was able to think really fast. Her ability to think really fast, when she realized that the xenomorph was in the lifeboat with her, wow, we're talking about not, you see, when you don't, the worst thing you want to do is panic, because when you panic, all reason and all thought flies away. But her strength is exemplified by her fast thinking. She put on the space suit. She sat by the controls to open up the airlock, and then when the alien was about to like get her, she jammed on that thing and out it went. And even then, she still had to do something. She, because it was trying to cling to one of the engines on the outside, and she hit that thrust, and boom. I was like, that was smart. My father and I saw the TV version of it when I was a kid. And when he saw that part, he applauded. He enjoyed that movie so much because he could tell that Ellen Ripley rocks. Yeah, Ellen Ripley, great final girl, and as well as in Aliens. I got to do a retro review on Aliens, man. That's my favorite Alien movie. Number 3, Nancy Thompson, Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah. Okay, now, what's weird about that movie is that she was kind of like a survivor, and then she kind of wasn't, because when you see the original Nightmare on Elm Street, you see her as being a part of a group of friends. Her boyfriend is, Johnny Depp. That guy, I don't know the name of the character. I just know it was Johnny Depp. They all get systematically taken out by Freddy in their dreams. And she kept on surviving it because she was thinking too. You see, the power is in the mind, right? And it showed that women are not only resourceful physically, they're resourceful mentally and emotionally. They can be strong, okay? Women are strong. Ask my wife. If you watch that and you see what happens at the very end of Nightmare on Elm Street, it seems like she didn't survive it, right? Like her and all her friends, she had all her friends back. They were in the car, and all of a sudden, Freddy was back, in a crazy way. But that's not the part that really made me say she's a final girl, she's a survivor. The final part to me was when she confronted Freddy right after her mother kind of like sank into the bed, into the pits of whatever. And Freddy came back, and she told him, "I know you now. I know you too much now, Freddy. You're just a dream. You're not real." And he was like, "What?" He couldn't. He felt all of a sudden neutered, if I could say it that way, by this young teenage girl that kind of finally got it to like knock this guy out, and it worked. It worked. It wouldn't be until Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors, that we see Nancy come back to help the current kids that are under Freddy's grip. So right there, you could tell she did survive. Number two, my number two is Alice Hardy, Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th, okay? This movie, when it was released in 1980, people were thinking, oh, snap, another Halloween ripoff, right? Because they were on the heels of the original John Carpenter Halloween, but this film had its own special element. It was very mysterious. You didn't know who the killer was until the very end. It wasn't Jason. It was Jason's mom. This was the film that springboarded all of that. You know what interesting about Alice was that she wasn't like any of the other camp counselors that were there. All the other camp counselors were very self-indulgent. They wanted to go have sex. They wanted to go do this. They wanted to go have fun. And not that she didn't want to, but she had more of a thinking cap on. She had a tighter thinking cap. She knew that, hey, look, there are certain things I'm not going to get involved in here, all right? Somebody here has got to, hold the fort down while everybody else goes bugging out. But then when all the dead bodies started showing up and she was freaking out and she was running, who does she run into? Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mom. And then all of a sudden, it becomes a fight to the finish between her and Pamela Voorhees. And they start, oh, God, that was quite a fight. If you watch the making of this film, you'll find out that you could see that in this film, it was meant for Alice to be the final girl, not just in the sense of she would kill Pamela with that object, but that she would come across to be a lot stronger than her friends did. You see, they died because they weren't as strong as her. She knew what to do. She knew what had to be done when it came to it's just you and me now. And either I'm going to die or you're going to die. There was no talking her out of it. There was no nothing. There was no negotiation. And this was if I remember from the movie, she was a psychology major in college. So she understood to a certain extent already a lot of the mind-bending stuff that was going on. But at the end, that had to give way to action. And she took action in a way that just mesmerized moviegoers at the time. You saw the head fly out. You see Pamela Voorhees like dead body, her headless body there, and her hands going like this. Those were man's hands, by the way, in the production of the movie. It wasn't really hers, which was funny, if you think about it. But anyway, she was doing this. Okay, the number one, you guys know what I'm going to say. Number one final girl, the best final girl of all, Laurie Strode, John Carpenter's 1978 classic, Halloween. Yeah, Laurie Strode was amazing. She exemplifies, I think, to me, she was like the epitome of all the final girls because she pretty much carried almost pretty much all of the characteristics of what a final girl would be. One, while her friends were doing all their fun stuff with their, whatever, Laurie held the fort down. She had to babysit. So she babysat. In spite of the weird dude that was looking at her through the school window, in spite of the weird dude that drove her past her and her friends in the car, in spite of the weird dude that was behind the bushes and in her backyard through the sheets, she held it down until she couldn't hold it down anymore, right? She fell downstairs and she got her arm cut. Michael almost had her. The shape almost had her, and she was still able to run. And she screamed and she yelled and she did, but she still fought him. Okay? Everything from the knitting needle all the way to a knife, all the way to a clothes hanger, took out his eye. Even when he was trying to choke her out before Dr. Loomis came and shot him, she fought him, right? And then that comes across much more clear in the 2018 Halloween when we see her much older and determined to be prepared to fight Michael Myers. Like that event in 1978 formed the character of Laurie Strode in any other better rendition than I ever saw. Not in H2O, not in Resurrection. No, it was in the 2018 Halloween, where we really got to see that was Laurie Strode. That was the Laurie Strode from 1978. In spite of her simplicity, in spite of her supposed weakness, was probably, in my opinion, the strongest final girl in all of the horror franchises. The other ones are great, don't get me wrong, but Laurie Strode is like the poster girl, basically, of the final girls. So, what do you think? What are your final girls in the horror franchises? Talk to me. Comment below and share with me what you think were the best girls in the horror industry that was able to survive the attack of the evil monsters and be able to kick their butts or do something to get rid of them or whatever. You know, such a breakaway from the original film depiction of women seen like victims, but they're not. They're much more than that. They're not victims, actually. Ralph Perez, Horror and Coffee. Make sure you subscribe. Take care. Keep your masks on until this stuff clears up.